Okay. Welcome. Welcome, everyone. We have very talented speakers joined us today. You will be pleased to listen to their initiatives in making women's and children's lives much better everywhere. If you have any questions and or wish to get involved in this work, please feel free to contact the speakers directly after the session is over. Their brief bio and email addresses are posted on the website. You can also write your questions in the chat box. Let's get this session started. All right. I think everybody can see this screen. Good. How can we create a world where everyone thrives through the education and health is the focus of today's side event. As a multi stakeholder and intergenerational platform for collective action for gender equality, our global initiatives will be an asset to the Commission for Social Development and all the NGOs associated with it. Women's Health and Education Center, its acronym is WHEC, has expanded and deepened partnerships with UN system, especially with WHO and UNESCO, governments, civil society, and private sectors. Working on gender equality and affordable access to higher education and quality healthcare services is of the utmost importance. To address this, our focus will be on establishing chair programs in both the developed and developing countries. Initiatives will be planned, developed, and implemented to improve, monitor, and mitigate opportunities towards equal access to quality education and income inequalities for women, girls, and minorities. Today's agenda and various experts will discuss the following topics: resettlement opportunities for migrants. The New York Declaration was adopted in 2018 by the General Assembly for orderly migration. Fostering societies where everyone is included, expanding chair program for both developed and developing countries, and fostering inclusive digital transformation. Okay, we have Ganesh Mani and uh, Anika. Our two speakers have joined us, so you'll be seeing them. Safeguarding the rights and well being of people who are forced to flee is a humanitarian imperative as well as a binding obligation. It remains at the forefront of international response. Never underestimate the power of collective action. Addressing the situation of people on the move and protecting their rights and welfare calls for a range of responses, some common to all and some differentiated according to the status and protection needs. What then are the fundamental considerations that could shape our responses to all people on the move, especially those traveling in today's mixed migratory flows? First and foremost, protect the lives and dignity of all and must be at the center of response. Generational equality is an opportunity and meaningful engagement, and it is an essential aspect of all the policy making. Women's Health and Education Center focuses on the importance of supporting the countries and communities that host a large number of refugees, promoting the inclusion of refugees in host countries and communities, ensuring the involvement of development actors from an early stage, and developing as a whole of society approach to refugee response. Our four key objectives are: number one, ease the pressures on host countries and communities. Number two, enhance refugee self reliance. Number three, expand third country solutions. And number four, support conditions in countries of origin for a return in safety and dignity. Now, the strategies for higher education for all, Women's Health and Education Centers program for higher education sustainability initiative and with UNESCO was established in 2022 as a prime means of building the capacities of international research and higher education. Thus, it promotes North South, South South, and triangular cooperation as a strategy to develop the capacity of institutions. Relevance, anticipation, and effectiveness are among the prime goals of the WHEC's Chair Program for Education and Health, which is one of this NGO's most intersectoral programs. Our e-learning, e-health, and e-government platform, womenshealthsection.com, is accessible in 227 countries and territories and has established new teaching programs. It has generated novel ideas through research and dialogue. It has also contributed to the enrichment of existing higher education partnership. Now, what is this New York Declaration for Refugees and Migrants? On September 19th, 2016, the United Nations General Assembly unanimously adopted the New York Declaration for Refugees and Migrants. It marks a political commitment of unprecedented force and resonance. It filled what has been a perennial gap in the international protection system, that is, truly sharing responsibility for refugees. It has paved the way for the adoption of two new global compacts in 2018: a global compact on refugees and a global compact for safe, orderly, and regular migration. By adopting this declaration, UN member states reaffirmed their obligations to fully respect the human rights of refugees and migrants. Women's Health and Education Center's response framework. Social justice requires healthcare, education, food, water, housing, employment, social protection, and digital technologies so that no one is left behind. Our initiatives with the UN and UN systems, WHO, and UNESCO aim to address the underlying causes of poverty and inequality in a world where it is estimated that more than 600 million people still live in extreme poverty. WHEC, which is Women's Health and Education Center, focuses on the importance of supporting those countries and communities that host large number of refugees. The World Bank has been heavily involved and is rolling out important new financing instruments for refugees hosting countries, and several bilateral development agencies are also encouraged. There is also an important role for the development aid in supporting the drive for solutions in countries of origin by addressing the causes of conflict and fragility. Our recommendations for leaving no one behind are: refugee settlement has remained an important instrument that allows for refugees with particular protection needs, including women at risk and survivors of torture, to be resettled to third countries where they and their families are able to build a future. Digital transformation partnerships and building better networks involve changing the ways we live, work, and interact with each other. It is essential to have positive effects on the societies and economies. This transformation must be inclusive. Today, around 2.6 billion people, or one third of the global population, remain offline. Simply expressed, we cannot let them down. Now, this is the WHE's e-learning, e-health, and e-government initiative, which we had done a side event on 2022 high-level political forum. It was very well received, and I will advise you, this is the web link. Please, at your convenience, go on the web and explore this page. It offers a way forward and welcomes everyone. Please give your opinions after you review this session. And putting moral obligation into practice still abound. Let us not ignore or forget this segment of population who have difficulties in accessing quality education and good health services. Here is the summary and takeaways. This initiative is providing advocacy, information, and consultation of everyday issues associated with mental health, women's health, child health, and violence against women and children. Our initiative is holistic, evidence based, and people centered. It considers how people live within their own environments and respond to stakeholders' needs. And development investments are integral part of our proposals and recommendations. Thank you very much. That's my email address. Feel free to contact me, and we would love to get you involved. Okay, let's stop sharing. And now it is my pleasure to give floor to my friend and colleague, Dr. Colleen Crafts. And she is the professor of pediatrics, and her title of presentation is Investing in Mental Health to Reduce School Violence. Go ahead, Colleen, all yours.
Thank you so much. Let me get started here from the beginning.
Yes.
Well, good morning to everybody, and we're going to talk a little bit about investing in mental health to reduce school violence. And by mental health, it's not only taking care of each individual child, but it's really addressing violence in schools from a big level, from building competency and building care for everybody in the school, from the principal to the teachers to the kids. So I'm going to go through violence in many forms. What are some of the summaries of the evidence-based interventions and outcomes? And then I'm going to highlight 3 programs that we know actually work to help reduce violence in schools. So we know that schools are a place where violence occurs. And the definition is that it occurs on school property or on the way or during a school-sponsored event, like a sports event or a music event. And it describes violent acts that disrupt learning and have a negative effect on students and schools and the broader community. So things like cyberbullying and bullying, fighting. We unfortunately see this all the time. I saw a 17-year-old yesterday who had been in a fight after a soccer game who actually had a fracture to his face. Weapon use, gang violence, And school shouldn't be for this. This shouldn't be happening at school. And so we need to know what the incidence is and what we can do about it. Well, the CDC actually looked at their youth risk behavior survey in 2019, and actually 1 out of 5 high school students reported bullying or being bullied. 8% had been in a fight on school property. More than 7% had been threatened or injured with a weapon, a gun, a knife, a club, in school, on school property within the last 12 months. And sadly, almost 9% of high school students had not gone to school at least one day in the last month because they felt unsafe at school. That's a red fire alarm. 1 out of 9 or 9%. Well, if you look at the bullying cycle and the social world we think about the kids who are bullied a lot, the targets. But you also have to think about other people in this ecosystem. So there are the bullies. And what is it about them? What are some of the stresses that they are meeting that are making them bullies? We talk about the henchmen and the active supporters. Why is it that when somebody is being bullied, you tend to get people going on with the bullies and either making fun with the bullies or standing behind the bullies or just not doing anything? Then there are the potential witnesses. These are people who don't really want to see that happening. Sometimes these are school personnel. Sometimes these are teachers. Sometimes they're cafeteria workers. Sometimes they're the bus drivers. And then you have your resistors and defenders and your witnesses who often become victims themselves because they are actively speaking out and actively protecting the targets. So what does mental health mean for this whole ecosystem? Well, let's look at the risk factors. The kids who are the targets are often perceived as being different from peers. There's often a perceived difference in sexual orientation or ability, disability, or socioeconomic status. Often these kids themselves have poor social skills and may be socially isolated and have few friends. Some are overweight, some are underweight. But really, this is the basic premise of perceived difference with these risk factors. How about the bully? What are the risk factors for being the bully? Well, these are people who tend to have less parental involvement. They tend to be aggressive or easily frustrated. One of the things universally that we have come to think about with the bully themselves is that they have stress somewhere. They're either experiencing issues at home or they are engulfed in violence at home, but they tend to view violence positively and lack empathy for others. What are some of the warning signs that a student may be the target? And this may be a child in your care. This may be a student if you are the teacher looking. So look for unexplainable injuries, lost or destroyed clothing or books or possessions. Often what I see are the kids that come in with changes in eating habits, not wanting to go to school, frequent headaches or stomach aches or illness. And I know this because, they get these frequent headaches during the school week and they're fine on the weekends. Difficulty sleeping, avoidance of social situations. And with some of our kids, they actually have some self-injury or self-destructive behaviors. These are warning signs that your student may be the target of bullying. But violence affects everybody. It's not only the victim. Violence also affects the perpetrators, the bullies, and it affects the bystanders who are really worried about if they're going to be the next target. So investment in mental health is prevention. And we think about mental health, we are really looking at the whole environment of the school. So policies to address violence, appropriate responses and consequences to identify bullies and targets. One of the things that's so important that we really are realizing is that the whole faculty and staff, even people who are not directly teaching but working with the kids, need professional development. Parent training is important too. Skills to build empathy for the kids, teachable moments, and student empowerment is really that investment in mental health writ large to help prevent bullying, to help prevent violence in schools. And that all school staff need training. The most successful programs that we have seen also do training for custodians, bus drivers, cafeteria staff, parent volunteers, and they are trained in how to build a positive environment, how to identify a child who might be a target, how to identify a child who might be a bully, how to intervene when you have a situation in your care. What's some of the evidence-based therapies and some of the evidence-based supports that we know for mental health systems? So that we do know that individual school-based counseling is actually important, and it's got a great evidence base in terms of helping out the kids once they're identified, both the bullies and the targets. Peer support programs, structured programs where students support each other and students have a script and they have activities they need to do at the secondary school level is something that really helps out. Community-based partners. There are a lot of great community-based partners that will partner with schools to help to design that positive environment. I'm going to talk about one at the end of my presentation. And then there are online resources that are available for the kids as well as the teachers, as well as the other staff that may offer some mental health resources. This is just a summary of some of the literature here, looking at everything from school-wide positive behavioral interventions and supports to social emotional learning. And this has done everything from improving student behavior, making a more positive school environment, reduction in disciplinary referrals, to decreasing violence, to reduction in the rates of students who are suspended, and improvement in academic performance. Because a lot of kids, if you're thinking about being bullied or running into that next bully as the target, you're not concentrating on your math or your history or your geography. So what's a summary of programs that are out there that do work? So an NAMI, or the National Association of Mental Illness on campus, there's a great program called NAMI on Campus High School, and this is targeted for high school kids. They can start a club. It is student-led, where they learn about what happens if you're living with mental illness. And these students become their own support. It's that peer support that helps to inform and then encourage people to recognize these signs of mental illness. Then what they do as peer mentors is they reach out to students who are having issues to work to end the stigma that surrounds mental health and to create that inclusive and safe and supportive school environment. The club actually has some of the resources. It's got ideas in terms of structuring, when to meet, who to involve, and has really got a great evidence base in terms of making this a student-led initiative to make a positive behavioral school environment. Youth Mental Health First Aid is another program that helps to teach the kids, the participants, to learn to support youth developing signs and symptoms of mental illness. It actually teaches teens to ask each other about risk for suicide or harm, how to listen judgmentally. You know, that listening is really quite a skill, and it's something that we teach our kids because think about it. When you talk to most kids and you want to talk about something important, they have an answer for you right away. But we do that too. If somebody is trying to tell us about something, how do you actually reflect what they've said to you so it can affect what you do because of it? Giving reassurance and information, encouraging appropriate professional help and self-help and support strategies. So Youth Mental Health First Aid is another one of the successful programs that has been incorporated into high schools and into colleges to help those peers, to help the kids who are there support other kids, promote that positive environment. Sandy Hook Promise started a number of programs after the awful school shooting there in 2012. And the prevention programs are creating safer schools, homes, and communities. So what they do is they look at the know the signs. Again, this is targeted for students as well as educators as well as school staff by looking at what are the signs that that child is a target, that that child is the bully, that that child is a bystander who's suffering stress because of what's going on in the school. And it helps to strengthen relationships between the youth and kids, where it's not just a disciplinary thing, but you begin to learn what happens with that interaction. It equips those educators with flexible training options and resources, and it empowers youth to co-create and lead and advocate for safer schools by developing and implementing solutions that only they can do because this is their peer group. And working with nonprofits, one of the areas that we've started to do, because all of these programs that are evidence-based are really for high school kids. Some have some evidence in middle school, but we're actually going younger than that. So at Children's Hospital Los Angeles, we are working with a group called Tools for Peace, and they have developed a mindfulness-based social emotional learning curriculum for elementary schools. This is something that my trainees are working with Tools for Peace to go into the schools and teach mindfulness training. Because think about it, if you are a second grader and you're upset about something and you have the tools to self-calm, you have the tools to know when to tell somebody if how you're feeling, and that you're in an environment where you're feeling like you will be heard and that your concerns will be addressed, you're much less likely to target somebody else, bully somebody else, be a bully. So this is something that we are doing, and you'll find a number of partnerships between nonprofit organizations, academic centers, and elementary schools are beginning to do this. So we're implementing the curriculum during class time, and we're working on measures to study the impact of this curriculum on these kids and their participants' social and emotional development. So in summary, really looking at mental health is how do we start to create the tools to create the environment at the parent teacher level, at the staff level, at the child level, all the way down to elementary school kids, because this is really where we're going to be effective in the future to prevent violence in our schools. Thank you.
Thank you, Colleen. It was fantastic and very uh, eye-opening. Okay, now it's my another friend, Dr. Vanati Gopalakrishnan from University of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, in USA. And her topic for today is innovation in experimental learning for global youth and women via CLIMB, CLIMB. It's an acronym. Computational learning, interference, and modeling of biotechnology. Go ahead, Vanati, all yours.
Yeah, thank you, Rita, and the WHEC for this wonderful opportunity to present a new and developing project on innovation in experiential learning for global youth and women via CLIMB, which refers to computational learning, inference, and modeling of biotechnology. My name is Vanati Gopalakrishnan, and I am an associate professor of biomedical informatics and clinical and translational science at the School of Medicine in the University of Pittsburgh. I'm also the founding director of a new center called the Vihar Center, which was established on December 9th, 2024, to help reduce global health disparities for women. Vihar stands for Vijayalakshmi Innovation Center in Women's Health Analytics and Research. And its mission is to conduct world-class research and training that empowers females of all ages across the world to take charge of their own health and well-being in collaboration with healthcare technology and systems. And its vision is to become the world's premier innovation center of knowledge and practice in evidence-based girls' and women's integrated health and wellness across the lifespan. Computational learning, inference, and modeling of biotechnology, or CLIMB, is Vihar's first innovative program being designed for youth and women. It will engage partners from industry and community and connect research faculty as mentors to high school students to catalyze innovation and entrepreneurship in cutting-edge technologies. Climb will leverage and build upon an experiential learning program developed by Thai Pittsburgh for Thai young entrepreneurs that ran successfully last summer. This brief video will give you some insights.
In today's Kidsburg story, some budding entrepreneurs pitch their ideas to seasoned business owners and investors here in Pittsburgh in a new program for high school kids. This is the pilot program in Pittsburgh called Thai Young Entrepreneurs, and it culminated in this pitch presentation at Carnegie Mellon University. The students spent 7 weeks in an online program watching educational videos about how to start a business. North Allegheny High School junior Aviut Iyer said he learned a lot of things he didn't know about marketing and revenue. The business he pitched won the competition.
It is autonomous robots to assist in inbound logistics. And so it specifically helps on material handling and put away, which is the way that products move within the company to a set destination.
Over a short span of 7 weeks, most of these kids have taken ideas or products that didn't even exist, and they've built actual functioning mock-ups of them.
There's a curriculum that's designed for them to let them learn the nuts and bolts of how this stuff works from people who have done it before. And it's sort of difficult to teach out of a classroom or a textbook because it's real world stuff.
Yeah, very impressive. Well, the students liked how they could learn at their own pace, watching the videos on their own time, also working together as a team. The program is run by a global nonprofit that helps entrepreneurs. We have more information if you're interested at kdk.com/Kidsburg and kidsburg.org.
Yeah, that was to give you an idea of the kind of program that's we will be leveraging. So go to the next slide. The question will be, why climb? So one reason would be because of emerging technologies such as AI, data science, and biotech, which are crucial and much needed. Give me 1 second to just get this out. I don't know if it's from my group or if it's somewhere else that's coming. So let me continue on. So one of the reasons is that emerging technologies such as AI, data science, and biotech are crucial skill sets for next generation of innovators. And number two, human-machine co-creation is going to drive the future of work globally. And three, foundational aspects of computational thinking is essential across the workforce and for enabling health in all. And I'll come to what that I mean by that. But first, let me start with the broadest standard definition of biotechnology, which is actually from United Nations 1992 Convention on Biological Diversity, which defines biotechnology as any technological application that uses biological systems, living organisms, or derivatives thereof to make or modify products or processes for specific use. So computational learning refers to the study and development of algorithms that enable computers to learn patterns and make decisions from data. It encompasses the fields such as machine learning, artificial intelligence, and statistical learning, where models improve their performance over time as they process more information. Inference in this context refers to the process of drawing conclusions from data and models, or the gathered evidence, if you will. It includes reasoning by induction or deduction in AI. And in machine learning and statistics, inference often involves estimating unknown parameters, making predictions, or deducing relationships between variables based on observed data. Modeling involves creating mathematical or computational representations of real-world systems of phenomena. In this context of biotechnology and AI, Modeling may include designing predictive models of biological processes, disease progression, or drug interactions by analyzing complex data sets. So together, this framework involving computational learning, inference, and modeling of biotechnology is a man-machine framework where data-driven algorithms learn from information, infer meaningful patterns or make predictions, and build models to represent and simulate real-world biomedical problems. In this slide, you can see on the left a figure from a recent review on multimodal data and AI technologies for medical diagnosis. So this figure shows various diverse types of data, including images, speech, text, and genetic information, and even physiological signals that are produced in clinical diagnostic processes. On the right, you can see an example of a multimodal agent architecture from Amazon Web Services machine learning blog, just to show you an example of how you can use different types of multimodal data, process them, and use such data and agents in order to unlock new theories and value for the user. These and similar areas of high research interest include the mining of federated electronic health records and agentic AI development for collective intelligence. I'm going to show you a very quick example where you will see recent work from our Department of Biomedical Informatics at the University of Pittsburgh. We analyzed a large federated database of electronic health records from the ENACT network and noticed an increasing trend in postpartum hemorrhage, or PPH, among all ethnicities, and particularly more among the minority groups such as Asian and Native Hawaiian or other Pacific Islander. Moreover, we were able to identify comorbidities and risk factors, you can see here, based on their observed proportions among the PPH deliveries. Factors such as placenta previa or accreta and gestational diabetes, which is a comorbidity, could increase the risk for PPH. More recently, working with a high school student from Michigan, Max Zhao, we were able to create a simulation. So this is an agentic AI example. We used crew.ai to sort of simulate what would happen in a postpartum hemorrhage operating room using a simulation with multiple agents. So we could program what it would look like to have an anesthesiologist, what would it look like to have a virtual patient, and the lead surgeon driving the surgery and so on, and run this simulation. And this shows you, we also added a monitoring agent, which is an AI agent that would potentially monitor the virtual patient every 5 minutes or so for vital signs. And you can see what we got from our preliminary pilot, where we have a description that comes out at the end of it saying that the simulation involved a postpartum hemorrhage case requiring immediate intervention, and the initial assessment revealed significant, give me 1 second, sorry. Significant blood loss, tachycardia, and hypotension. Rapid fluid resuscitation and blood transfusion were initiated while the surgical team identified and repaired a uterine laceration. Hemostasis was achieved and the uterine incision was closed. The abdominal wall and skin were then closed and the surgery successfully completed within 45 minutes. The patient's vital signs stabilized throughout the procedure, showing a positive response to treatment. No complications were encountered during the simulation. The overall management demonstrates effective teamwork and appropriate responses to a potentially life-threatening situation. So that gives you an example of the kind of work that we are currently doing with respect to AI agent building and simulation and modeling, which we could potentially use as projects that we would then teach high school students and emerging workforce through CLIMB. I would like to thank Vihar CoLab members, Ganesh Mani, who will be from Carnegie Mellon University, who will be speaking in this event. Alex Dalton, who is the TIE Pittsburgh Executive Director, and Max Shao, the high school student. And in order to engage global partnerships, we will be, for this program, CLIMB, we expect that we will partner with TIE Global. The mission of this nonprofit is to foster entrepreneurship globally through mentoring, networking, and education, funding, and incubation. And it actually has 63 chapters worldwide. It also has a women's wing called Thai Women, and it has the youth wing. And these are the wings with which CLIMB will partner to create pathways for financial and technological inclusion globally. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Venati. It was really excellent. And I would like to get involved more and more into this program and would like to submit to UNESCO with your permission. And let's see, we will talk for a few minutes after this session is over.
Thank you.
Okay, now it's my pleasure to introduce you to a very smart young lady, Anika Ahmed. She's a talented activist from Bangladesh, and her topic is role of education in combating gender-based violence. Anika, I know you have joined. What happened to Anika? Oh, here you are. Okay, go ahead, Anika. Floor is yours.
Hi, thank you so much. I hope I'm audible and
Yes,
visible.
yes. You are
Okay,
beautiful. Go ahead.
okay, great. All right. I'll just share my screen. Okay, I hope it's visible. Yep. Hello, everyone. Good morning. So imagine a world where every child grows up knowing their worth, where education does not teach math and science, but also respects equality and the power to stand against injustice. Now, think about this. What if the key to ending gender-based violence isn't just law or punishment, but education itself? So today we'll explore how education isn't just a tool for knowledge, but a powerful tool in fighting against gender-based violence. Because when we educate, we don't just inform, we transform societies, break cycles of abuse, and create future where violence is no longer tolerated. Hello, everyone. This is Anika Subhamadupoma. I am an alum of Harvard University and founder of a nonprofit youth organization in Bangladesh named Evolution 360, which is currently operating for 9 years. And I'm also a UN representative at Man Up Campaign and currently working full-time with University of Albany as a Title IX administrator. Pretty much responsible for handling all the complaints from the students related to sexual harassment and sexual discrimination, and also in the responsibility of preventing them. Moving on, today I'll be talking a little bit about how education play a vital role in combating gender-based violence. Explaining a little bit on the types of gender-based violence and its relation with the anti-violence pyramid model that we promote while we train the students, while we try to prevent gender-based violence from happening on campus. And also I'll be talking some evidence-based educational interventions that we have worked in and I myself have been engaged with from multiple areas, which proved to be very functional and very effective in combating gender-based violence. And lastly, I would suggest some interventions according to the research that has been done in these areas. And moving on, we all know the definition of gender-based violence. What UN says is any act of violence that results in physical, sexual, or psychological harm, suffering to men, women, or any other gender, whether occurring in public or private life, can be termed as gender-based violence. Now, the thing is, we often think that gender-based violence happens only to women, but that is definitely not the case. Well, about 91% victims of rape and sexual assault are female, but about 1 in 3 women and 1 in 6 men experience sexual violence in their lifetime. And according to the statistics of United Nations, about 22% women and 7% men have experienced gender-based violence in their lifetime. So this is a humanitarian issue, not a women issue. And gender-based violence in the United States includes intimate partner violence, sexual violence, and stalking. So moving on to the types of gender-based violence, mainly there are majorly 2 types, the implicit and explicit. By implicit gender-based violence, we mean some non-explicit things that are present in our society, which often we tend to normalize, like social bullying, joking, misogynist comment, homophobic comment, psychological abuse, alienation, inappropriate advances on social networking sites, or even sharing private images or videos without consent. And by explicit violence, we mean more serious offenses, which are physical violence like assault, rape, sexual harassment, physical abuse, or intimidation. Now, let me show you a very interesting link between the implicit and explicit violence through this iceberg model. Now, many of you might be familiar with this, but it's very interesting to see how the implicit violence eventually results into explicit violence. For example, in the iceberg model, you can actually see under the water, there are things like jokes, threats, coercive control, shaming, traditional gender norms, all sorts of sexism, homophobia, racism, or things like that. And these eventually gets normalized. And over the years, people who are involved in these things, get themselves involved in things like stalking, physical harm, sexual harassment, violence, etc. So this anti-violence continuum or pyramid actually shows how attitudes and beliefs play a very vital role in resulting into sexual harassment and homicide, which gives rise to physical expression of assault. And you can actually see like people who are involved in slut shaming, vulgar remarks, gender slurs, who sense unwanted things and rape jokes. All these actually gives rise to normalized form of violence in the society, and eventually that results in rape, molestation, sexual assault, etc. Now, as an individual and as an organization or a community, what do we do in this type of society? Do we encourage? Do we tolerate? Do we condemn? Whenever anyone around us are showing signs of implicit violence, what do we do? Do we ignore? Do we understand? Do we tolerate that? Do we, say something on their face? So that is something that we can think about. And that is also something we can ponder on, how to not normalize implicit violence in the society as a prevention of sexual harassment to increase. Now, moving on, I'll be talking about some educational interventions to combat gender-based violence. And I'll be talking about 5 points today, which I have been involved with, and I have seen them working. These are properly evidence-based. Now, the first one is raising awareness through trainings and workshops, then creating safe space, developing critical thinking and empathy, engaging men, and bystander intervention training. All these all these prevention techniques are done through education and with education. So the first one is raising awareness, which we all are pretty familiar with. The pictures that you're seeing in the slides, the first one is from a training with the adolescent girls from my nonprofit organization, Evolution 360. This was back in 2019. So we had a training, a gender sensitization training, an empowerment training with teenage girls. And the next picture is a Good Touch, Bad Touch campaign with the children. And this is also another campaign that we've been doing for the past 8 years with children aged 3 to 10 years. And we teach them to identify abusive behaviors through teaching them good touch and bad touch so that they know what's wrong and what's right. And this, we also have consent training for young boys, just to make them, just to give them a comprehensive knowledge on consent and what it means, and also to gender sensitization. The next point is creating safe spaces. We do have a lot of safe spaces in my workplace, University of Albany, my alma mater, Harvard, and also in a lot of other educational institutions in US. And, safe spaces like Gender and Sexuality Resource Center, Women Resource Center, Gender and Sexuality Caucus. All these safe spaces can be created in the educational institution to encourage open dialogue, which provides students with an environment to discuss issues related to consent and gender equality. It empowers survivors to seek help and creates a supportive atmosphere where survivors feel comfortable in reporting incidents without fear, stigma, or retaliation. And it also ensures transparency, which establishes procedures for reporting and addressing gender-based violence cases effectively, and also builds a sense of community and safety. Thirdly, education helps us to develop critical thinking and empathy. Education promotes safe action to support gender-based violence victims by teaching students to distinguish between right and wrong. We have a lot of toolkits for this. One of them is a toolkit from Harvard on confronting gender bias in school. A lot of high schools in US follow this. So education nurtures students' understanding of power imbalance and power relations and teaches them to act as bystanders. And what does that mean? We will be looking into the details in our upcoming slides. The fourth point is engaging men. Now, this is one of the vital area where I have been involved with for the past few years through my organization. So one of the signature campaigns of Evolution 360 was He for She. So we named it Be the Change campaign in the grassroots areas of Bangladesh. We continued this campaign in 12 districts nationally. And this campaign helped men, young men or adolescent boys to unlearn toxic masculinity and embrace gender equality. It teaches men how to prevent gender-based violence in communities and future generations. And programs like this show that ending gender-based violence is not just a women issue, but a shared societal responsibility. And this also encourages healthy masculinity by promoting respectful behavior, emotional intelligence, and nonviolent conflict resolution. Now, it has been proved over and over again through multiple research and multiple studies that better sex education for boys does help reducing violence against women. So this is definitely one of the most evidence-based and effective technique that is being followed worldwide. And I've been doing that in Bangladesh as well. Now, the fifth point is bystander intervention training. Now, as a bystander is definitely a person who witnesses something happening in front of them. That can be an act of violence, that can be an act of abuse, whether implicit or explicit. So what is bystander intervention training? So this is a training where we train the bystander to act. It helps them to learn strategies, effective intervention techniques, such as direct confrontation, distraction, or seeking help. It strengthens community safety, so violence is less likely to occur due to increased vigilance and intervention. It creates a culture of accountability, shifts responsibility from just the victim to the entire community, making violence prevention a shared duty. And just to elaborate a little bit on the bystander intervention, this is a training that we normally give to our students from our office because we help them to understand the whole situation and what to do and what not to do as a bystander. So we teach them these 5 Ds. You can have like a direct intervention, like that's offensive, you need to stop saying that. That's a sexist joke or that's a misogynist comment. That's direct. And then there's distract or being indirect. Can you tell me how to get to the lift or the elevator? Shifting the topic or digressing. And then there's delegate. This person is being harassed. Can you help? Asking for help from someone else if you are not comfortable in doing that by yourself. And then there's delay. Are you okay? Can I accompany you somewhere? After even after the act is done or the incident already happened, you can still go and help. Ask the person if they need any help. And then lastly, document. Screenshot, photo, video, recording, anything. And then they send the recording to us, and then we take action accordingly. So this is a 5D bystander intervention that we normally follow in our university at our workplace. And this has so far proved to be an effective technique in teaching the students what to do in situations like these. And lastly, how to integrate gender-based prevention in educational curriculum. Now, there are a lot of ways in doing that. We can have a comprehensive curriculum with sex education and gender sensitization topics in it. We can engage all stakeholders and collaborators who are available. We can promote positive role models and focus on inclusivity. All these are very, very important integration techniques that we can follow to prevent gender-based violence through education. And lastly, we all know that education plays a pivotal role as it is used as a tool to fight eradication of gender-based violence through the promotion of respect, equality, and empathy. Now, the fight against gender-based violence is not just about policies or punishments, it's about prevention. And education is our strongest tool. So let's come into using it wisely and effectively, because when we educate, we don't just inform, we create a lasting change. And with that being said, I would like to conclude my presentation today. And with your permission, I would love to answer any questions you have. And with your permission, I would like to share a very small video, if time permits.
How long is this video, Anika?
2 minutes. Do we have that time, or I can
Or
skip?
can you wait till the end of the session if we
Yeah,
have
sure.
time?
That's completely
Okay,
fine.
thank you very much.
Yep. Thank you so much. Thank
Yeah,
you. And I'm happy to answer any questions if you have.
sure.
Thank you so much.
So, and I will be happy to introduce Dr. Ganesh Mani and Dr. Edith Luhanga. They both are from Carnegie Mellon University. Dr. Mani is based in Pennsylvania, USA, and Dr. Luhanga is based in Rwanda, Africa. Let's hear their views on AI with health and education. Dr. Mani will discuss on education part, and Dr. Luhanga will address on healthcare and AI. Go ahead, guys.
Thank you, Dr. Luthra. Wonderful session here. And I should start by saying you folks are doing all the wonderful work. I'm just a technologist, enabler, but AI can be a wonderful enabler these days. Before we get to data and AI, we need to be talking about the foundation. What is the foundation? It's internet access, speed. Do you have the right infrastructure? Do folks have the digital skills? Things are improving with respect to the share of the population using the internet. Left pane, South Asia has had a very nice uptick here. Hopefully the sub-Saharan Africa infrastructure will catch up as well. That's the hope. everybody's talking about is AGI near? What is AI going to do? AI should be thought of as a tool. AI can also be thought of as humanity's mirror. This is a TED Talk from the U.com founder, where he talks about the true gift of AI, maybe what it reveals about humanity, about what we can and cannot do. So that permits facile human machine teaming. And just yesterday, Sam Altman from OpenAI was pitching GPT-5, right, which is closer to AGI. So a lot of things happening in the AI world, something we need to be paying attention to. Goals haven't changed. This is some colleagues of mine from the AI world, Professor Beverly Wolf and others, talking about what are the grand challenges for education. This is pre-LLMs from over a decade ago. Mentors for every learner, learning 21st century skills, interaction data, so we can get better in the next phase, universal access to global classrooms, which is a very good topic for today, lifelong and life-wide learning, which is not only relevant for youth, but also relevant for folks like us. And how can enable data and AI enable those goals? We had talked about some things, Vanity, some others were also co-authors of this. Francisca Rossi was then the incoming president of AAAI, the flagship AI body. We came up with this mantra of the people, by the people, with machines, for the people. So trying to be inclusive. And we also set up some challenge tasks for the 2020s across all three spheres: health, wealth, and wisdom. So let's focus on some of the wisdom, education related things. Information checker. The problem with AI now is a lot of content is being generated. So it's not just about knowledge creation. There are really three C's: knowledge creation, knowledge curation, and then knowledge communication. And I think curation and communication are becoming very important, especially because there's so much good content out there and good content continues to be generated, and also explaining the reasoning, causality type of things. Folks around the last Trump administration asked me about tariffs and provenance of AI. So we had written an op-ed in the Business Standard, the Indian English language newspaper, really talking about the triad. Any data science or AI project is data, domain knowledge, and tools, right? Tools are becoming egalitarian. There's innovation coming from all parts of the world. You folks probably heard about DeepSeek from a few weeks ago. So it's not about the tools, it's really about the data and the domain knowledge. So what works in Kigali is very different from what works in Bangalore than what works in Shanghai or Pittsburgh and so on. So keeping that regional focus, both with respect to data, domain knowledge, is very important. This is an interesting case study from Jordan, which already has a number of refugees. We may get more if they solve some of the new crises in the Middle East a little differently. What they've done here is, even if people only have access to non-smartphones, how can they use WhatsApp? How can they use SMS? How can they use IVRs to increase women's labor participation rate? Likewise, this is a case study Harvard Provenance said in Kenya about Gen AI. How can they help Kenyan entrepreneurs? It turns out the impact is uneven. It may be because the low performers think AI is magic and try to use it for complicated business tasks with magical thinking. That might be one of the reasons. So things tend to be mixed, but there are some very interesting low-cost innovation. This is taking generative AI, which can generate some interesting stories, scripts, educational things. And then, even if internet connectivity is not available, can you use radio broadcasts that's from Burkina Faso. Likewise, bottom pain is a study math tutoring using WhatsApp, right? What is sort of the common um, feature of all this? Digital public infrastructure. Can you create with the digital infrastructure? There's no tragedy of the commons, right? You can continue to reuse, scale it, and so on. We've had some good success in India with setting up identity using Aadhaar and then using it for payments, using it for now health and all of that. So if you can set up the right infrastructure, then things become very interesting. There are still significant data inequalities. There are some new efforts like the Data Provenance Initiative. They've just created a Gini coefficient, works the same way as an income inequality. Coefficient of 1 indicates highest concentration, right? So text is very concentrated. West, China, India, some parts of the Middle East are getting better. Video, if you take a look at it, a lot of people in the emerging economies use video both for entertainment and for learning, but the Gini coefficient needs to be improved there. So better data. There's some of the things we've been involved in. This is Bottom Pain. A student of mine did from CMU Africa. Galani did some work with low resource languages with an early version of chatbot. It didn't do very well. How is collective decision making engendered using LLMs and some collective intelligence framework? That's some joint work with unanimous.ai. Some of the things we're working with Professor Luhanga, who's up next, and Professor Chipeta in Wits University, some students, and so on, is financial inclusion and AI. Can we develop recommendations for financial literacy? So it turns out that financial literacy and AI literacy are very important. They mean different things at the K-12 level. They mean different things for college folks. They mean different things for us. They mean different things for entrepreneurs. They all need to be financially literate. So a call to action could be AI to be a catalyst, not a divider for SDG 4, fund open source AI toolkits, public-private data partnerships, global AI equity standards, and then really co-designing with the AI consumers. Where are the consumers? Mostly in emerging economies, billions of them. Most of the AI production is happening out west, funded by big tech, funded by big government, US, China, UK, India, a little bit. We saw some trust and access issues with the COVID vaccines, for example. That should be a lesson to us. Can we democratize content creation? Can we empower local teachers? Those are some of the things we need to be thinking about. So this is something some of the UN bodies with all your help can take it forward. With that, let me turn the microphone over to my good friend and colleague, Edith. Edith, please take it away. Thank you.
Thank you, Ganesh. Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be with you today. Thank you, Rita and WHEC for this opportunity. So as Ganesh mentioned, we've been doing a lot of work around AI and financial literacy, and that's some of the things I'll talk about today. Let me just get set up here. So we've had a lot of hype around large language models. So your tools like ChatGPT, Gemini, Copilot, and all the potential that they can have. And when the discussion moves around to large language models in education, it tends to be some negative comments in terms of how much they can assist cheating in exams, because some of them do perform quite well over students. But then there's also increasing realization of the potential that these large language models can have. So, for example, in low resource settings where you have very high teacher-student ratios, you really want to reduce the workload as much as possible for the instructors, but you also really want to ensure students get more personalized feedback and more support. And these large language models can step up to that task. I have an example here of just a prompt you can run on any of the large language models. For example, if I was a teacher for 8th graders and I needed a lesson plan for photosynthesis, it will generate not just objectives, but also activities and timeframes for this. And through interacting back and forth, it would modify this to my preferences. Again, creating a lesson plan yourself takes time. This is a really easy and quick way to generate these tools. And from the student perspective, it's not just about the tutoring, it can also be about emotional support. So if I was a student failing math and I prompted an LLM, it would not just give me tips, it would also show me that, encourage me that this is a normal part of learning. So overall, we're seeing an explosion of tools, both teacher-facing, student-facing, for in-classroom education and formal education as a whole. But what we are really interested in the research we've been looking at is what happens when people are learning outside the classroom settings. Some of these success stories we're seeing from the formal education sectors are likely to influence quite a few entrepreneurs and innovators to say, how about we provide these to support out of classroom learning? And so the big question you could say we've been looking at over the past year is how accurate and useful are some of these LLMs in responding to financial and health literacy needs in African users? Now, there's a lot of literature from the Western perspective that looks at measuring large language models' accuracy in general, in terms of factual accuracy, contextual accuracy, but we're not seeing a lot of that in terms of contextual accuracy to the African context. So that's one thing we're interested in, but also just looking at how different errors might pop up. We know the types of errors AIs can make. We call these hallucinations when they're non-factual information being spit out. But how much do they interplay and how do they influence how people view these tools? So starting with the financial literacy studies, we ran a survey with around 300 people in Rwanda last year where we tried to assess their digital financial literacy to identify gaps where AI could really make a difference. And what we were finding was there's limited knowledge and uptake for people aged 18 to 32 on investment products such as bonds. But also calculating interest and inflation can be quite difficult, and only about 65% got it right. And this was worse if you did not have tertiary education, so higher education, and if you were a woman. Now, bank loans in general are harder to access for people. So the whole issue of interest in that situation is not something we were interested in, but rather interest when it comes to accessing loans from mobile companies, mobile network operators. Because many people here in Rwanda use mobile money. So you can borrow money from your mobile network operator. And because you can do it from your phone, it's really quick. You don't have somebody giving you oversight and saying, actually, I don't think you can afford to pay this back. And so this is something we really honed into and tried to see, could we improve people's understanding of loans through LLMs? And we also honed into the fact of we need to show people more information about investments. So some of the studies we ran with LLMs, we tried to prompt them with different questions. Here's an example of one. We asked, can you give me detailed ideas of managing my money in Rwanda? We had given it a whole preamble of this person, who they were, what their goals were, what their challenges were, income level, and so on. And so I'm just going to give you excerpts of some of the response. What you find is that still large language models provide some information. It's still too limited to really provide detailed guidance. But what we were seeing that was quite intriguing and interesting for us is that they were at least trying to personalize them by showing the names of actual products, investment products you could access here in Rwanda. So for example, Mocash, Airtel, and some of the informal lending groups. So at least for the financial literacy part, it looked like they were quite accurate and contextually relevant for this context. But I'll come back to this study in a few slides. We tried the same thing for maternal health literacy because we know a lot of studies have shown us that our ability to learn, our ability to respond to emotional setbacks and all the things we cope with during education years, in adulthood, our health essentially starts in the womb. And so we really need to be supporting women to improve their maternal health literacy. Now, when we used a variety of LLMs to just ask them, again, this is abbreviated prompts, to just ask them for advice, the first prompts we gave them was for advice in English. So for example, for a woman who's having food aversions, needs some ideas for protein-rich foods, lives in Rwanda. Again, we were seeing some attempt from the LLMs to provide contextually relevant information, but here is where we start to see the disparities between domains. Whereas with health, it was getting the names right of the local products. Here we're seeing it's giving the right high protein foods, so things like beans and lentils, but it's getting the translation wrong. It's telling me beans is ibihaza, but that's actually pumpkin. It's telling me sombe is lentils, that's actually a leafy green vegetable. And even when it doesn't try to translate, we never asked it to translate. I guess it was just personalizing to this context. Some of the foods are technically available, but not culturally relevant. Not many people would eat them. So avocado, yes, highly available. Avocado toast, not many people eat that. Same with hummus. And when it comes to some follow-up questions it was asking, we saw here an issue of the potential to ask questions that could be triggering for some people. So it asked questions like preferences and allergies so that it could further personalize this information. That's fine. But then something like, do you have access to a kitchen for preparing meals? Some people would take this the innocent way it was intended, that, I could be a student in a dorm room and unable to prepare my own meals, so I need different advice. Other people might see it as, is it because I'm in Africa that you're assuming I'm poor and cannot afford to have a kitchen? And so this was some of the nuances we're seeing in terms of the interplay of errors. So we're continuing with a qualitative assessment to see all the different types of errors and how they present themselves when you're trying to create literacy programs for people. Now, moving back to the financial literacy study, we had good results with that. So we tried to come up with our chatbot to provide people with assistance when applying for loans. But we tested it out initially with 10 people to get initial impressions, and only 3 felt it was necessary. The problem wasn't that they didn't need it in terms of they knew how to calculate interest. The problem was they just didn't feel it was fast enough. And, if the mobile network operator tells me this is my ceiling, why don't I just state my ceiling? And so this brings me to my takeaways, really, in that even though there's potential for these tools, we need more understanding of what are some potential useful use cases from the African population's perspective, because by providing some of the tools they need, we can then piggyback on their success and we can piggyback on their success and provide tools that they need, but might not already know that they require them. But also, given these errors that are popping up, some are hallucinations, some are just, not hallucinations, but not contextually relevant. What is catastrophic from a user's perspective that would turn them away from using these products? Because those are the priority areas we really want to start fine-tuning AI for. And finally, we just need, as so many people keep saying nowadays, more democratization of AI, making LLMs aware not just of the local languages that we have, but also the cultural norms and anything that might be negatively taken as a harmful stereotype. So thank you. That is the end of my presentation. I'll hand it back to you, Rita.
Thank you very much, Edith, and it's always a pleasure to work with you. Now let's get back to home, Springfield, Massachusetts, and 2 of my lovely friends who were the teachers, retired teachers now, they will be presenting some projects from Springfield Public Schools. One is Dr. Donna Jenny, another is Marguerite Franklin. Go ahead, guys. We only have 3 minutes. Actually, we have gone overtime. So go ahead.
Good morning, everyone from snowy Massachusetts, and I thank all our fellow presenters. On Wednesday, January 29th, 2025, just 2 short weeks ago, the United States Department of Education announced that Massachusetts students ranked first in the nation in math, reading, science, and writing on a national assessment known as the Nation's Report Card. And in Springfield, Massachusetts, where Tools for Teaching is based and was founded, Springfield is the first district in the state to make free, universal, pre-kindergarten education available to every child of ages 3 and 4 in the city. This is more than just a new layer of learning. It's a statement. When it comes to giving every child a fair opportunity to learn and excel, the city of Springfield means it, and Tools for Teaching was created to help. We are instrumental in supporting the teachers who are educating the children in the city of Springfield. Most of our team are licensed and credentialed special education teachers or work with small groups of students who had specialized needs. It is with this historical background that I turn our presentation over to my esteemed colleague, Marguerite Foster Franklin.
Good morning. Thank you again. Energizing educational excellence in a culturally diverse urban school district, Springfield, Massachusetts. Tools for Teaching is a recycling resource center for Springfield Public School teachers. Tools for Teaching is a nonprofit organization composed of a team of volunteer retired Springfield Public Schools educators with combined experience of over 250 years. Our mission is to facilitate the successful education of our richly diverse, complex, urban student population in Springfield, Massachusetts. We offer a huge cross-section of gently used classroom resources donated by retiring educators for current teachers at no cost to them. These valuable materials, such as an extensive variety of manipulatives and the ideas we offer for their use, help address the broad spectrum of the specialized needs like autism, ADHD, dyslexia, Asperger's, and physical ed of our United Nations-like student populations, which allow them to succeed and thrive in an extremely demanding and evolving world. While engaging with current teachers, our retirees, many of whom are special education specialists, offer informed suggestions for use for research-based materials, empathetic listening, as well as encouragement and praise for doing the most important job in any society, educating the future citizens of our world. Since 2010, Tools for Teaching has successfully supported over 1,000 educators with proven classroom resources, which enables them to strategically focus on the most facet needs of their students. Tools for Teaching also helps the environment by keeping still valuable, useful materials out of our landfills. Acknowledged by city, state, and national leaders, our Tools for Teaching team derives great satisfaction from the purposeful, meaningful work we do to energize education in Springfield and beyond. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It was, your slides did not move, but thank you for your very educational lesson. And I thank everybody. Now our time is up and we meet again. Thank you.